Hi guys, we're here with a new video, and this video is the best spec that nobody is playing in 10.2 of Dragonflight, and I want to talk about Frostmage. And I've been testing Frostmage by a few days, I would say, and I'm actually surprised at how much fun I can have. I'm actually surprised at how good I have with certain lobbies in social, especially where I would think, look, it should not be the case. And I think it has one of the better kits in the game where I feel like every single press I'm doing does a lot of damage. And yes, you have like a top 3 which is pretty significant, is doing a lot of damage, but I feel like everything I'm doing can result to a KO. And I want to talk about it really quickly. I want to show you the two builds I'm playing currently in Frost as a Frost Mage. It is not a PvP guide. It is just me showing off how I play Frost Mage pretty much, and how I can actually recommend people to play Frost Mage. Again, I always told myself, look, mage is maybe too squishy for me, or it's a bit too strategic maybe. I have to run most of the game anyways. I don't feel like confident on it. And then I play a few lobbies and I feel like I'm in my environment. I'm actually playing around the strength of my spec, and also just in general, I try to survive as much as possible, but also I try to dish out a lot of damage whenever I feel like I can dish out a lot of damage, and often I end up being like top damage or or like top 2, while I'm not really a AoE spec. While other AoE specs can easily top 1, like for example DH. A Frost Mage that does a lot of damage, that can crit and that also KO targets, is a menace in my opinion. So let's talk really quickly how I play. So I decided to be a bit like unorthodox. It would be running a lot more mastery in general. I have more mastery than haste. I feel like I'm confident by playing like this because we have a talent which is called your haste is increased by 8%, which is Winter's Blessing, and you gain 10% more of the haste stat from all sources. And that alone makes up for the haste loss I do have on the gear that I want. But I do feel like the mastery is giving me a bit more oomph on certain abilities. For example, Iceland's Glacial Spike and Real Frost do get increased. We have also a bit of Frozen Orb damage here and there, which is, again, it's not going to make you KO anyone, but Frozen Orb is something you're going to cast anyways. Blizzard is going to be something you'll cast anyways, and Comet Storm is something you're going to cast if you're playing with that spec. I do feel like you have a lot of like nuance in mastery. I feel like, again, if I want to play Fire Mage or I want to play Arcane, there is a world where one mastery could be useful, and I have haste enough to actually cast. And I'm still like, I don't have any gear, right? I did get the mark of mastery, the emerald one, which is the 1600. I got 1600 in Soul Shuffle today, actually, which is a big thing with the current stats I have right now. I have 33 wins, round wins, with only 9 losses, which I think, to be honest, for someone that is not really a mage pro or just a mage main in general, I do feel like I have a lot of fun, and I see where I can win some games because of the win conditions I'm actually putting myself into. And I'm going to say how I do it, and kind of the rotation I go for at the start of the match, where I dish out a lot of damage, which in general eliminates a lot of defensives, because in Soul Shuffle, again, everyone is going to press a defensive whenever someone is going low. But I do feel like I have a lot of confidence in how I play in Soul Shuffle, and I think the main thing that is actually holding me back are just the queue times. And I didn't start with a crazy MMR as well, so it's not like I'm playing like the better lobbies. I'm playing like lobbies where healers don't know how to heal. I play lobbies where melees are doing stuff that should not be happening, or they're like kiting all healer in a place where they could get killed. So again, I feel like the more I play, the better I will become, and the better lobbies I will have in general. So let's talk about the talents really quickly. So I play with two builds, and I want to say the thought process behind it. You will see on the class tree, more often than not, I will be playing with these talents. I do play with Ice Block Heal because I feel like in Soul Shuffle I don't want to rely on anyone, and the healing I get is substantial enough to actually pick those 2 points. It does make it a bit annoying because you do lose a few things. For example, you lose Ring of Frost, and you would lose, for example, Tempest Barrier if you want to heal yourself after a blink. I mean, shield yourself after a blink, or the diverted energy, which is not a bad talent as well because you can regen a lot of your health because of your barriers. Again, there's many things that you can put instead of cryo freeze. I do feel like cryo freeze did help me a lot of the times to win lobbies that I should not maybe win, because again, if my healer is CC'd and I heal myself in the ice block, it makes it a bit more easier for the healer to actually recoup from the CC chain that they got into, for example. Why not Ring of Frost? I do feel like, other than not, whenever I cast Ring of Frost, I do get kicked anyways on Frost, and if I get kicked on Frost, it's pretty terrible. It's not like I'm a Frost Fire Mage. I do get kicked on Frost. It is not the end of the world, but for a Frost Mage, if you do get kicked on a Frost spell, it does make that you cannot ice block anymore. And if you cannot ice block, it means, again, if your healer is not there and there is a huge burst of damage that is happening on the screen, you will not survive. Again, how many times did you get crit 300k by a DH as a Frost Mage? I think that happens pretty often. So again, getting kicked on Frost is not ideal. I don't want to like bait myself into doing a Ring of Frost, which often or not I would be good enough by doing a polymorph on the focus target. I'm not playing with mass polymorph because I feel like I'm 1-minute CD anyways, and it can be interesting, but in Soul Shuffle people break CC anyways. But if you play with mass polymorph, I think the ideal talent that you could play is Master Shepherd, but again, you lose a PvP talent for that. So that is pretty much the setup I have. I think the rest is pretty standard. Remove Curse is interesting because, again, sometimes you're facing a warlock and you can save yourself and your teammates by removing curses, for example. Other things, again, I play with Mass Barrier. I think it's a huge defensive for your whole team. Putting in Ice Barrier is always nice because also it removes all snare effects. So overall, I think this tree is pretty standard, except on a few points here and there. I think there is a world where you could play with Freezing Cold, but you will have to sacrifice like 3 points for it, which is very difficult with how the class trees are made of right now. You will have to lose, for example, accumulative shielding and time manipulation, I think, to get 2 points into Frigid Winds, and then you will have to lose maybe Dragon's Breath or maybe Mass Barrier to get Freezing Cold. But again, it's choices, you can make them if you want to. On the spec tree, I have like 2 builds. Pretty much I have the Glacial Spike build with a lot of Icelands damage. Let's be honest, I think most of the damage will come from Icelands anyways. And the second build, let's talk about the main points first. So I take every single talent that improves my Iceland's damage, but also my Glacial Spike damage. So for example, Piercing Cold, I'm not casting a lot of Frostbolt. I do for slows, for example, but it's not like my main thing that is going to bring a lot of damage on this build. But getting a big crit on Glacial Spike, often than not, gives the opportunity to take out a lot of defensives or just get a KO, which is the thing that you want to have in Soul Shuffle. We have Brain Freeze, of course. We're trying to take a lot of Brain Freeze stance because I feel like a lot of the things that I'm doing, it gets enabled by Winter's Chill, and you want to have Winter's Chill at all times on the enemies if you want to burst, because again, it adds more damage. We have some modifiers for Frozen Orb. I do feel like this is maybe a talent that you could take away and put somewhere else, but I do like the extra duration on it. We have Icy Veins, pretty standard, and we play with Icy Veins, and we don't play with Ice Form on this build. We have Freezing Winds, Slick Ice, although I'm not really casting a lot of Frostbolt, so I could remove that and put it somewhere else. But then again, I do feel like if I have to cast Frostbolt, may as well do more damage and may as well have a faster cast time. The big MVP of this build is pretty much Glacial Spike, but also Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost is pretty much the thing that is going to often liberate your team by getting a win, which should not happen most of the time, or for example by removing a lot of defensives from the enemy by doing a good Ray of Frost. And that's it. And then we play with Frostobolto. That is my second build. I know. It is a build which is, I think, slept on. It's very hard to show on the dummies because a lot of Frostbolt modifiers are on players, so it doesn't work on dummies, for example. But we have a few things. We do not play with Glacial Spike. I think if you go for 2 set and 4 set, you kinda are obligated to play with Glacial Spike because you would just lose the utility of the 4 set. But if you may not play with 4 set, you could actually open yourself up with a Frostbolt spec, which can crit for 200k per Frostbolt. If you're playing with Ice Form, which makes you immune to stun and knockback, it helps you a lot because again, it's a 1 minute CD, 17 seconds duration, you will do a lot of damage, and in general this is going to be interesting versus a lot of stun comps against you, especially if you're playing in 2s and they don't have a dispel because it can get dispelled Ice Form, so it's not like ideal. But this is going to give you a lot of Frostbolt damage, and just being unstunnable is something that is going to be very interesting. But anyways, we take every single Frostbolt talent on the tree. We're doing a lot less Icelands damage, let's be honest, but it's still going to be active because you're going to do Icelands to liberate a lot of those icicles, because icicles are going to be casted because of your Icelands, while on Glacial Spike it makes your Icelands no longer launch as icicles. So it's going to add more damage. Overall, your Icy Veins, which becomes your Ice Form, is going to be very interesting because of Slick Ice, because of Thermal Void, because of also Ray of Frost, which is going to be very interesting as well. Because if you cannot get stunned and they don't have an interrupt, they have nothing to actually stop Ray of Frost except using a Fear or an instant CC that is having a longer CD, for example. Instead of on the healer, they will do it on you, so you will have a better time surviving, for example. This build is not played a lot by me, but whenever I do, I feel like I'm justifiably choosing that build and making it work, because it makes it a lot difficult to stop me. But also in general, people don't really kick Frostbolt. They prefer to try to kick Glacial Spike, and they don't even understand that you're not playing with Glacial Spike. So I guess it's a fine build. And Frostbolt critting for 200k, which is happening a lot because of how Shadow works and how Winter's Chill works. I think you can have a lot of fun with this build. Personally, I like this build. There is also a world where you could maybe remove a few points on the right side to go for Fractured Frost and maybe Cold Front to actually have a lot of AoE damage. Especially Fractured Frost could be very interesting in versus melee cleaves. But again, I think Glacial Spike is such a important ability for your 4 set. This build will not be played a lot. But if you want to have fun and you don't have 4 set or you don't play 2 set, this can be a build that is going to be opening up versus a few specific comps. PvP talents, I will say all the PvP talents I normally play. So Ring of Fire, I play it a lot because it's something that they are not going to kick, and if they do kick, it's stupid because of the way that if you're having no kicks on you for Frost, you can do a lot of damage on your Glacial Spikes and a lot of damage on your Ray of Frost. So people generally don't kick that, but it does a lot of damage. And often, if you're playing with Ring of Frost and you're doing it correctly, it is often top 2 damage in the whole game. So it's something that you're going to always have it happen. You can start off with Ring of Fire with a flurry, spam Ice Lance into a Frozen Orb, spam Ice Lance with an Ice Nova, and you can continue the assault without actually using CDs. So that's an option. Frost Bomb, I think it's a talent that I'm never taking away because it does a lot of damage since they actually buffed it. It crits easily for 300k. It hits for insane amounts. So I would suggest to just take a habit, play with Frostbomb. It's a 15-second CD. The issue is, if you are watching this video to know how to counter Frost Mage, if you see Frostbomb, just dispel it, because if Frostbomb is dispelled before it explodes, you gain a charge of brain freeze. But trust me, you prefer to have a brain freeze on the Frost Mage instead of the Frostbomb damage, because the Frostbomb damage with Winter's Chill and then a Ray of Frost generally just KO someone, so it's a very strong spell. I do play with Snowdrift. Trust me, if you're playing versus melee cleaves and you can Snowdrift, often than not, you can actually open up a lot of opportunities to win games. Or if they are both stunned, they cannot stop you from polymorphing the healer, which is something that can happen. And this is going to be like your go-to kamikaze attack, pretty much. So you can start off with a flurry on the target. You can do Snowdrift with a blink into a Frost Nova so they cannot move, and then you can just spam your Ice Lance with your Frozen Orb and then your Icy Veins, and then once they are stunned, you just do a Ray of Frost and you generally can KO someone with that. You can also start with Frost Bomb, Flurry into a Snowdrift, Blink, Frost Nova, and generally they're stunned, and then you have a Frost Bomb on the target, you do a Ray of Frost, and that is a guaranteed KO. They will have to trinket or use something to stop you, because if they don't, they will get KO'd again. So why do I like Frost Mage? I think it is because of how it plays. It does a lot of damage with everything they're doing. You have a lot of control. It's like the ways why I like Warlock is actually the same why I like Frost Mage. I would like Fire Mage and Arcane Mage as well, I think. But for now, I'm concentrating myself on Frost Mage. And I do feel like having that much options with CC, you have a stun, you have a polymorph, you have slows, you have roots, you have a blast wave, which is insane on certain maps, and you can often just use it to cancel like spells. For example, if you're against a wall that is doing chaos bot and you don't have an interrupt, just use your blast wave into their face and they can actually just stop their cast. You have your alter time. If you're using it correctly, it saves games. You can spell steal, you can mass barrier, you have a lot of utility, and that's actually what is fun about Frost Mage. It's not only damage, but it's also the utility behind it. A blizzard is really annoying for a lot of melees in general. But in general, if you have like a big Winter's Chill, you can just spam Ice Lance, and it will do a lot of damage just with those two abilities. Just Flurry, Ice Lance, pretty much. And with that, you can just do some lethal damage, especially since you have a lot of modifiers in PvP. This is going to be doing a lot of damage. But if you're like ready to do a lot of damage, you can just do a brain freeze into a Snowdrift into a Frozen Nova, and then you can just start with a Ray of Frost, and now he's stunned, he cannot stop you. And this is a lot of damage, by the way. This is a lot of damage, and I think the modifiers doesn't work like 100% in how it's called, on dummies. I think it crits for way too much on the dummy, but in general, in a game, it can crit for 200k if you're doing it correctly. And that is, again, 200k on just one hit. It hits for 5 times. It is pretty much like a KO, because you have another DPS, or you have a Frost Bomb on the target. Again, if I do a Flurry into a Frost Bomb, and I do, for example, Ice Lance, just to keep it, you will see the damage. It does like 192k, just a Frost Bomb. And you have modifiers for it. You can do way more by just doing a Ice Nova, for example. So in general, you can have a lot of damage, a lot of opportunities to have fun. I think that's, if you play PvP in general, you want to play for fun. At least that's my thing. I don't play something that I don't like. So whenever I do a Ray of Frost, I try to be like line of sight of the enemy, and then the damage is going to speak for itself. And generally, people are going to use CDs to actually catch up to you and try to stop you, or they're going to use immunities, or they're going to use a DR. And often than not, that means just that you're going to have an easier game, because then you have your Frost Bomb doing a lot of damage, your flurries into Ice Lance. Ice Lance is going to be your best friend in general. But again, I think Frost Mage is an interesting place where I think they cannot really nerf it. Maybe the damage, but like survivability or anything like it, they're never going to touch it because there is not a lot of survivability to frost mages. But you can have artificial survivability by avoiding damage because of your mobility. You can just blink and then you can displace back. You can do an alter time. You can alter back. You can then blink again. So you have a lot of things going on that can actually be very fun. And I use 2 weak auras on a frost mage to make my life more easy. And then I will be cutting the video because it's not a PvP guide, it is just me talking about frost mage and how fun it can be. Alter time, I use it. It's just something you want to have. It will give you an indication of how much on what HP you did alter time, so you can actually know, okay, look, it's a positive one or it's a negative one. You can go back, or you can just cancel it with a macro, for example. You can also just in general know how much time it is, because again you have to look up on the screen to know how much time it is remaining on your alter time. But if you have like a big logo on the screen, at least you can see what's happening and whenever it's going to be reversing, or how much time you will have still left. And then we also, yeah, again, I think that's a pretty standard thing. You need precog. Precog is actually a very important embellishment, but also it's important to have it on your screen. And it's even better if you have sound on it, so you can actually don't rely on the logo, but at least you have the sound effect, and then you know, okay, now I can have precog, I can do whatever I want, they will never be able to stop. And if you have precog, you have icy veins, and you have a ray of frost going on, it's the best feeling of your life. So again, try to have those weak auras, or be super good on the game and actually be able to see everything on the screen at all times, and then you don't need it. But again, my eyes becomes a bit too old, I think, and I need some visual indications on whenever something happens, especially if I'm playing a caster. On my warrior, I don't need too many things because it's a very simple class. Although I think it's hard to master, but it is simple, like entry wise, while I think mages are way harder to entry. But once you have entry, then you're better at surviving. You can actually master it pretty quickly, in my opinion. Again, I might be wrong, but let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about frost mage? Can you have fun with it for you? Do you maybe plan on playing frost mage or a mage in general? I would like to make some content on it as well, because I think it has potential in showing how you can improve on that class. And I think a lot of medias actually want to play classes, but they don't really know how to start on and how to improve on it. So I can maybe make a series about that. But anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you think about those videos, ideas. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love the support that I got this past month and just in general this year. I'm very grateful, and I hope I can make even better content in the future. But again, I'm here for you guys, so hopefully you can bear with me and see my progression throughout the months and years to come. Again, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.